Yet there's no better example of Biden's failed agenda than the catastrophic, and you look at it, is what's going on the southern border. I mean, is there anything that you've ever seen like what's going on the southern border? And people are coming in from South America, Latin America, but they're coming in from the Middle East. They're coming in from all over. When I left office, we gave the new administration the most secure border in U.S. history. We had the most secure border in the history of our country, and that included drugs, that included human trafficking, which is a magnificently horrible and big business, mostly trafficking in women, and the numbers were down to levels that they hadn't seen in many, many years. And all they had to do is just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. If you leave it alone, it would have gotten better and better. And the fact that we built almost 500 miles of wall, in just a few months it would have been completed. It took 2.5 years of litigation to get to build the wall, and what an impact it had. But it would have been completed, totally completed, in just a couple of months, and they stopped it. Now I understand they're starting it again. That one was just too easy. But wait till they find out wait till they see what those contractors are going to do to them. Well, you know, this is going to cost us 5 times more money now because we weren't prepared. You know, it's the old story. They're the greatest negotiators in the world. They may not have gone to the greatest business schools, but they're the greatest negotiators. But we negotiated historic agreements with Mexico, Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador to stop illegal immigration. We ended asylum and asylum fraud. The fraud of what was going on at our border was unbelievable. We instituted rapid removals on the border, and that's really rapid. I call it one-day turnaround of criminals coming into our country, sending people home in record time. We have times that nobody ever heard of before. We ended catch and release. That's where you catch somebody. Could be a horrible criminal. You catch somebody, a rapist, a murderer, could be a drug dealer, and we release them. It's called catch. We catch them and we release them into our country. Well, we didn't do that. We empowered ICE to do their jobs. ICE is incredible. The Border Patrol is incredible. By the way, your police force in North Carolina, I've gotten to know them very well. They are incredible. Thank you very much. A lot of them are here tonight. We cracked down on sanctuary cities, deported gang members by the thousands, and dealt a crippling blow to MS-13, that's the most vicious gang of all, and we took them out of here by the thousands and thousands brought back to where they came. And those countries didn't want them back. And a little story, I said, well, what do you mean they don't want them back? They weren't taking them back. They didn't want them back. They sent them out. They didn't want them back. And I said, that's bad. And they told me that, sir, we can't take them. They won't let us land planes. They're putting other planes on the runway so we can't land planes. They won't take the buses. I say, how much do we pay those countries? Sir, we pay them $500 million a year. Oh, you do? Tell them we're not paying them anymore. And the next day I got a call from all 3 countries. We'd love to have MS-13 back. We think they're wonderful people. We never had a problem, and now they blew that one too. They blew that one too. I'll never forget it. We'd love to have them back. It would be our great honor to take them back. Those runways opened up like you've never seen anything open up. After we instituted these policies, the number of illegal aliens coming across our border declined by an astounding 91%. But under Joe Biden, illegal crossings are up nearly 1,000% compared to the same period last year. They're emptying their prisons. They're sending murderers, drug dealers, human traffickers, and others just as bad to the United States. Let the United States take care of them. Remember, it's called America Last. In April alone, over 175,000 illegal aliens were apprehended and mostly released. You know where they were released, right? They were released into our country. And we saw the largest number ever of unaccompanied minors. We've never seen anything like it. If you just watch some of the semi-fair you don't have to watch fair, semi-fair. They talk about it because I think they have no choice, and I think they're going to see it more and more. You don't see it too much on the evening news yet, but you're going to see it because they're destroying our country. But it is much worse than that. because there are at least 1,000 aliens who are simply getting away every single day as the radical Democrats have intentionally, ruthlessly, and systematically dismantled the sovereign borders of the United States of America. We have people just walking into our country. Nobody knows who they are, where they're from. There's no vetting. There's no anything. And some of these people are very, very bad people. Much as I said on that beautiful morning when I came down with our future First Lady at the time, right, Melania, who sends her regards. But we came down that beautiful gold escalator in Trump Tower, and I made that statement, and people hated it. It turned out that my statement was very minor compared to the actual facts. It was very, very minor. It's another thing we were right about. Without a border, you cannot have a nation, certainly not a great nation. We fight for other countries' borders, but we don't fight for our own border. Think of it. We fight for other countries' borders, but not for our own. That changed under my administration, but now they're going back more rapidly than anyone ever thought possible. Nobody ever thought that they could do this kind of destruction to our country so quickly. Some of those executive orders that are signed are absolutely insane. Biden has halted wall construction, suspended removals and even removals of just horrible, horrible people, stopped enforcement, shredded our groundbreaking Remain in Mexico. So we had that groundbreaking plan that took us a long time to get, because Mexico, like the other countries, were taking advantage of the United States. Everybody was taking advantage of us. And we have an agreement. Stay in Mexico as opposed to stay in the United States. And a lot of people weren't coming when they realized they had to stay in Mexico. So the enforcement was so much better, and it was getting to a level that nobody's ever seen. And then we finally hit that level. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. They turned America into a sanctuary for criminal aliens, and effectively they were abolishing ICE through agency directives. What they've done to ICE and what they've done to our Border Patrol heroes is incredible. It's incredible. And these are some of the finest people you'll ever meet. I got to know so many of them, and they're among the finest people you'll ever meet. It's true. They love our country. Despite the worst border crisis in history, we've had the smallest number of illegal alien removals ever recorded. 92% of illegal aliens we removed in 2020 had criminal records. You believe that? 90, over 90, and very substantially probably higher than that. I think around 92% had criminal records. And now they're all being set free and released back into your communities. They don't want to bring them back. And if they are back, they actually have a new policy that if we took them out, they're going to let them come back in. It's the most incredible thing I've ever heard. But the border is just the beginning of the Biden disasters. As you know, we handed the new administration the greatest economy in the history of the world. We passed massive tax cuts, the largest ever, larger than our great friend Ronald Reagan. Record regulation cuts, historic pro-American trade deals, and achieved American energy independence. How's your gasoline price doing? Actually, I guess you were hit worse than any state, from what I understand, on the cyber attack. It's incredible. It's a lack of respect. After the pandemic began, we launched the fastest economic recovery on record. We produced 3 vaccines and numerous therapeutics to defeat the virus. You know, they don't talk about the therapeutics, but we came up with things that are incredible and I think extremely effective. All Joe Biden had to do was sit back and do nothing, and it was taking off like a rocket ship. Nobody's ever seen it. Between the economy and all of the other things we did, the border. Instead, the economy is going to hell, and inflation is going to cause a catastrophe in the near future. The New York Times, who I don't often quote, just stated, 1 million jobs a month seemed within grasp not long ago. Think of it, 1 million jobs a month seemed within grasp. Not long ago, but now it looks like wishful thinking. Isn't it sad? And we would have done much better than that. But that's the New York Times saying it. Monthly jobs numbers have missed expectations the last 2 months in a row. And you saw what was released on Friday. They were devastating numbers, job numbers. Inflation is now at the highest level in 13 years and is going to go up very substantially. It's going to cost you a lot more. Imposing a stealth tax on hardworking Americans, and especially on middle-income Americans. Biden re-entered the job-killing Paris Climate Accord, a terrible deal that is pro-China, pro-Russia, and anti-America, and will cost America trillions of dollars over the years. This is a deal that is so one-sided against us, like practically no other deal. But they're all bad. But this one's a real beauty. But it sounds so nice, right? The Paris Environmental Accord. Gas prices have increased almost 71% since 1 year ago. Think of it. Democrats are now attempting to pass the largest tax hike in American history. And it will affect everybody. They're saying it's against the rich. It's against everybody. And a lot of the rich will take off to go to other countries. A lot of the companies that I brought back are going to leave and go back to other countries where they can not have to pay all of their profits out in taxes. They're talking about the biggest tax hike in history by far. They're also pushing a $2.25 trillion infrastructure bill. That's not infrastructure. It's the kind of things that you don't want. 9% looks like it might be infrastructure, but mostly it's not infrastructure at all. The Democrat legislation also includes an extreme plan to abolish single-family home zoning, which would obliterate your home values, increase crime, and destroy the suburbs, all to satisfy the far-left agenda of AOC, Bernie Sanders, Rashida Tlaib, and Ilhan Omar, who's telling us how to run our country. She's had great experience. She comes from a country that's done a wonderful job running their country. Now she's telling us how to run our country. While Democrats push economic policies designed to punish American workers, Republicans must keep on fighting to protect, promote, and uplift the American worker who we cherish. And that begins with standing up to communist China. Last year, China inflicted an estimated $16 trillion of economic damage onto the United States with a virus that I call the China virus because I want to be accurate, that claimed the lives of hundreds of thousands of our fellow citizens. And look at the world. Look at what happened to the world. It's not just us, it's the world. And had we not come up with a vaccine, you would have had a 1917 Spanish flu number. They lost, they say, up to 100 million people. You would have had those kind of numbers. You would have had numbers that were just unthinkable. But because of what we've done as a nation, because of the speed that we came up with a vaccine, the world will not have that. Many places in the world are getting better. Even India today announced that they're starting to heal. The media, the Democrats, and the so-called experts are now finally admitting what I first said 13 months ago. The evidence demonstrates that the virus originated in a Chinese government lab. Couldn't say it. You couldn't say it. And Dr. Fauci, who I actually got along with, he's a nice guy. He's a great promoter, you know? Not a great doctor, but he's a hell of a promoter. He likes television more than any politician in this room, and they like television. But he's been wrong on almost every issue, and he was wrong on Wuhan and the lab also, very wrong. And we ended the payments. You know, they were started in 2014, and then I can tell you, Mark Meadows came in, and I talked to him, and he saw what I saw, and I said, what the hell's going on? When did that start? Started in 2014, and we ended it. Our administration ended it. But generally speaking, I went the opposite way of Dr. Fauci, what he was saying. For instance, Fauci said, do not close our borders to China or Europe. but I did it anyway. And months later, he said, I made the right decision and saved thousands and thousands of lives. He said it was the right decision, but he did not want to close that border. I said, wait a minute, there's tremendous infection over there. We can't let this happen, and we closed it, and I think we saved hundreds of thousands of lives. You remember the number was 2.2 million people in our country who were expected to die. Fauci said powerfully at the beginning, no masks. You remember that? No, masks don't work, masks don't work. And then he went into masks, and then he became a radical masker. I would call it. If you have 3, if you have 4, get a pair of goggles also, ideally. And let's wear them for another 5 or 6 years. But Fauci has perhaps never been more wrong than when he denied the virus and where it came from. The time has come for America and the world to demand reparations and accountability from the Communist Party of China. We should all declare within one unified voice that China must pay. They must pay.